I am always impressed with events that have such a diverse approach to education and to bringing people together. And I'm curious, how many people are here for their first year? Okay, seriously, like,
oh, wow.
Thank you so much. And pop in your green chair. Pop in your bash chair. Because it's through the excitement and the joy of folks who are still exploring these communities or exploring a single event that you have that infusion of new joy and new bliss. I'm seriously believe. And anybody here who's, can I get the rest of the hands of people who've been here at least 2 years then? You are the serious people who sometimes I wonder if it's serious joy or serious foolery that come back year after year to support this kind of event because some of you are volunteers. Bless you. Because the people who especially are volunteering year after year, I am so impressed with what you are bringing every single time. Anybody here been for 5? 10? Okay. 15? May I ask, how many years have you been coming? Wow, 21 years worth of coming to the Bash. Can you believe, for yourself, 23 years. Can you believe it's been that long?
Oh. He still thinks he's a teenager.
You still think you're a teenager? That's understandable. At least your enthusiasm seems to be. Now, for some of us, though, coming into this weekend, whether it's our first time or whether we've been here for quite a long time, we're coming here with a lot of excitement, while others of us are coming with a lot of trepidation. Are coming in with a degree of uncertainty because sometimes things don't go right at events, or at play parties, or in relationships, or in that moment of drama with that one person who you're currently not naming. Whoever that person is. Because each of you have your own name right now etched in your mind. And for those of us who have been hurt on some level, trepidation and uncertainty are completely valid emotions to be experiencing right now. Because people keep on coming to events like this and everybody's like, are you excited? Are you excited? And I know there's events I've gone to where I'm like, thanks. Because we got hurt on some level. We got hurt on some level. Whether it was someone who had their consent violated, whether it was somebody who the last time you played in that dungeon, that one weird wacky thing happened and you don't like that thing happened because it was the only time you and your relationship stumbled. Maybe if you just had a weird interaction once and it just doesn't feel comfortable. A lot of us are coming from those places, and I want to talk tonight about that and how we can move forward from them so we can actually have an awesome event. Sound okay? And if you're feeling right now is that moment of trepidation where you're like, I don't know actually, where's this going? That's valid too. Now, for those of us who have had our consent violated, you are not alone. According to the NCSF, the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom, a study was done that came out in 2015, where of respondents, some 4,000 respondents, 29% had experienced a consent violation at some time during their STEAM experience. Yeah. And of those folks, 9%, 8.9%. Experience it being either oral, anal, or vaginal penetration, or some sort of defilement. Yep. Which is amazing because that percentage right there at the end is the same percentage, actually slightly lower, but the same percentage as the world at large. The world at large. Our community is not a utopia. Our community is a cross-section of the rest of reality. Just like you never know whether you're going to meet somebody who is, in my case, at the same dinner, an Occupy Wall Street protester, or someone who was one of the vice presidents for a bank on Wall Street. Awkward. We are a cross-section. It's one of the amazing things about this community is you will get to sit down and have conversations with people that you would have no excuse to ever meet any other place in the world, because we all come together for this gathering of tribes, which is pretty amazing. Now, some of us are tender because things have gone off kilter, right? You thought you negotiated out everything. You talked about all of the details of what this was going to be, this scene or this dating experience or this MS relationship, whatever it was. You might have even spent years talking about it. The problem with communication is that we think it happens. Right? And the problem is that what I am thinking in here, the concepts in my mind are being filtered through my life experiences in the world at large and my experience in my 20 years in the scene, and that's my experiences. It then comes out of my mouth with my accent or language choices. It gets heard by your ears, goes through the history of your journey, and then it turns into a new concept on the other end of the system. There's a lot of places where this can go wrong. A lot of places where it can go wrong, but we have this mythology in our community that it's supposed to all go perfect because we spend so much time on communication and negotiation. It's an amazing myth that makes us feel safe. It makes us feel safe. But at the same time, I think it does have us be safer, even with that horrible percentage that's sitting there on the table. Because we are sexual athletes that are doing things with our minds and bodies that other people would never dream of. And I had this realization last week that we're actually sexual Olympians. No, seriously, has anybody been watching Rio, like, obsessively? Yeah. So, who saw Simone Biles? I'm guessing you, right? Win the all-arounds? My mind was blown that a human body can do that. I cannot even conceive of doing a double backflip with a half turn and landing and like spot landing it like that, and then keep going with a smile and a little bit of a hip wiggle. I can't. But you know what most people can't do on this planet? Imagine single-tailing their lover while they're riding on a Civia. They can't imagine slowly sliding a needle into their lover's breasts. They can't imagine what it would be like to be tied up in precarious poses and having ridiculously hot sex. They can't imagine it. But we are out there being sexual Olympians. We're out there doing the things that look impossible, because what gymnastics is doing the things that look impossible, but making it look easy. And I know so many times I've been in play spaces, and I watch these things that seem impossible, but those players in that moment of connection make it look so easy. Because we, as the viewer, don't see the hours of practice. We don't see the work that goes into it. We just see the end product, like Simone Biles flipping around. Now, there's some of you who are probably going, okay, I'm sorry, I only joined FetLife about 2 months ago, and this is completely new to me, and you do a what with the what? You might not be Olympians. In fact, you're swimming your first laps in the pool and you have no interest in ever becoming Michael Phelps. And you probably can't because you don't have webbing between your fingers. You know what? If we look at America And actual swimming, a huge percent of the population can't swim. Some of it is due to inability to have access to venues to do so. Some of it's due to cost. Some of it's just not having an awareness that might be something someone wants to do, and that happens for adventurous sexuality too. There are people who can't come here today because it's too expensive. It's hard to get to. They never considered it until they saw that one photo once, and we make fun of 50 Shades of Grey sometimes in this community. Do you know how many people who have had that moment that when I am not alone because of publications like that? Bodice rippers that are poorly edited, but full of ideas to get people's dicks hard and cunts wet and muffins engaged. Because I don't know what you're rocking between your pants, so I'm just saying. But you right now are starting to swim laps, and that's so beautiful. But be aware that there might be those moments that mess up. My joke with people is, oh, how long have you been doing suspensions? What's your worst mess up? You haven't had any? Let me know when you do. Yeah, almost any play. Now, the biggest thing I see, though, that goes wrong and where animosities come from in the scene is those little tiny things where people messed up. They said you're illegal. You said the scene name when you were at the grocery store. They walked into the backswing of your flogger. They tried to dominate you when you were getting, snacks for your master because they went, oh, you're a submissive, you're everyone's submissive. And it's funny because some people are like, ooh. And other people are other people I met are like, what's the issue with that? If they just don't know. Because some folks coming in just don't know. And that doesn't make them bad people, but it means that they messed up. Some of these things can be little, and some of them can be big, even for the same action. Saying your scene name in public could lead to a funny joke later, or it could lead to someone losing their job or their children. When somebody says, why did they call you Mistress Blah? I'm sure she has a much fancier name than Blah. I know I had a situation where I accidentally, for folks who know her, I was in an airport and Boot Pig was at the same airport passing me. And it didn't occur to me that she was walking with a group of people in her suit, like in a day job kind of outfit. My brain did not register this, and I said, hey, Boot Pig. And then a moment later, I went and walked away like I was some crazy person. Because I realized I had just shouted out her scene name in the middle of a crowded airport in front of people who probably aren't involved in that way in her life. Now, I was really bluffed because she rolled with the punches and just kept walking as if I was a crazy person. And she came and saw me later and said, so, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. She's like, no, it happens. But I'm glad I knew what to do in that situation. That I knew that I could walk away, and you knew enough to realize that you'd made a mistake rather than being that person at the grocery store who just keeps talking. Now, I say this because they are also mistakes. People need to be told. People need to find out. And in some cases, that person who walked into a backswing, they need to be taught how to be more aware. Now, this could seem like a funny little thing, but it could have messed up a relationship too. That moment when your backswing comes around and actually ends up hitting your partner in the face, for example. These things can be little or big. Malice is not necessary to cause harm in all of these situations. In all of them. But there's an opportunity to help people learn, and for those of us as a community, help others learn. If I see someone about to wander into the dungeon and they're like beelining for someone's whatever it is, and they don't notice everything else because they're in a glamour spell, they're just mystified by all of the magic around them. Oh, you gotta have had that moment. Everybody's had that moment where it's just like, shiny. It happens. But what we as the other people in the social area can do is instead of waiting for some dungeon monitor nowadays if you're at a public event, or if you're just somebody there, you can say, grab somebody's shoulder or grab, kind of put your arm in front of them and say, hey, you're about to walk into someone. It doesn't have to be that top's job to watch everything, even if they should. Because we as a community have a chance to make it better for everyone. For watching out for each other. You realize somebody is being the dickish dom? Because dickish dom, it's not gender related. They come in all stripes and all ages. Because they are at a point where they're so in that experience, they don't notice. But know what somebody can do other than that slave? Somebody else has the ability to inform them what the challenge is, instead of that slave having to stand up for themselves again. I know a lot of submissives who experience submissive fatigue, that moment of not wanting to explain yet again and defend their identities. That's tough. We can stand up for others. We can make actual change. Now, back when I lived in Arizona, I went to a concert by a gentleman by the name of Paisley Yankovic. Does anybody know who Paisley Yankovic is? That's completely reasonable. Paisley is a cross-dressing goth punk musician and Christian proselytizer. He's amazing. It is all of the things. All of the things. In the middle of the concert, he stopped mid-song. And he looked us all in the eye and said, has any of you ever been hurt by a Christian? Not have a Christian missionary who seems to be very angry at that moment, pause and say that to us. I wasn't sure how to feel about that and what to do. But he just kept looking at us, having asked that question. And then somebody in the third row raised their hand. And somebody else raised their hand. And then I raised my hand. And then everyone raised their hand, including Paisley. And he said, just because you've been hurt by a Christian doesn't mean you've been hurt by Christ. Something to consider. How many of you have been hurt by a kinkster at some point in your journey? Hurt on some level by a kinkster, by a pervert, by someone in this scene. Or by somebody, yeah, a lot of us have. That wasn't the scene doing that to you. That was a person. Or a small group of people. Those were people. And people do the variety of things that people do. It doesn't matter that somebody's a dominant to be dickish. People can be dickish no matter who they are. But there is an exception, in my opinion. And that is the often unconscious racism, ableism, sexism, ageism, and homophobia in our community. I am so tired of hearing people say that it's cute that some hot silver fox is still having a really friggin' sexy sex life. It's not cute. It's hot. No. But there's stories. We pass on stories that submissive men are somehow weak-willed. We pass on these mythologies that somebody who can't get down there on their knees isn't as submissive. We pass on these things all the time. And it's unconscious. And it's insidious. I think it's completely understandable when folks from these various populations have a trepidation coming to our events. The number of gay men I've met who say they don't like going to pansexual events because being sexual in those spaces is given a leery eye. Because two chicks making out is hot, but two guys? That's interesting, isn't it? In a country, in a community that says we're not going to judge others because we've been judged so much in our journey. The classes I've been to in other places where they're not teaching to folks of different colors when they say your skin should be pink so that it's warmed up. Where we don't talk in our master slave classes about the cultural trauma embedded there. And it needs to be talked about. It needs to be acknowledged at least. We have a chance right now today to empower ourselves, make change, take action. Because all of us deserve it. We have a chance to make our entire journey forward in the kink community, but starting right now at this event, a loving and embracing community for people of all walks of life, not just the ones that you found hot in your porn. So, one of the things that we need to do this is help people learn and educate folks without shame. If somebody was that dickish dom in the snack area, and you yourself are so upset because it happened, because that's reasonable, having someone else step forward and say, hey, are you open to a conversation right now? Ask permission. Are they available right now to hear? Because some people are not. Are you available for a conversation? Because I'd like to talk to you about something that happened, the desire, so that everyone has a better journey, including you. Hopeful outcome. And then the actual information. A thing happened here, and you're not bad for it. People do it all the time. But in our community, it's X, Y, and Z. People are able to come in right now and buy a ticket and come to any event they want to. I cannot make an assumption on somebody's experience based on how they're dressed or their number of years on this planet. Because I've met 24-year-olds who have lived, breathed, and gone to 5 kink events every single week since they turned 18. And other folks who have been involved in the scene for 20 years who go to one thing a year. Neither's better or worse. I just can't assume even when someone says blank years in the scene. Common sense ain't that common. Dear Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. It's not, but we, with love, have an opportunity to educate others. We have a chance to support people when they come to us from a place of being wounded. And instead of saying, that could never have happened, she would never do something like that, saying, wow, thank you for sharing that with me. This is new information. It's not my experience of that person. But I really appreciate you having the vulnerability to share that wounded experience with me, that wounding experience. And then get more information instead of coming back with statements that invalidate others' journeys on this planet. Because even if you know it is not true, if they are in the place of that much woundedness, they can't hear it, that first point. They can't hear it. And that doesn't make them bad people, it makes them a person who right now is experiencing woundedness. Whether it was something profoundly traumatic or something kind of annoying. Yeah, that moment where you're just like, hey, how you doing? Any friends like that? Ever been that person? It's okay to be feral. You're fine. And I think we start moving forward by having those conversations, even if they're scary. In fact, courage is not experiencing fear. Courage is fearing and doing the work anyway. Now, as a note, this doesn't have to be quite as serious as that all sounded. We can educate people by being, hey, I saw you like almost get hit with that flogger. I don't know if you know how long a flogger is, but I'll show you if you want me to. Kinesthetic learning, my friends. Kinesthetic learning. Because, why not? We can reach it. People learn in this scene through flirting. Use it. Make a friend and go sit down and have a snack together, or just have a conversation with a new friend. And part of making those connections and educating people and putting connections together is dickish Dom, who's just like, I just want to meet somebody who's submissive and wants to like get my snacks for me. And then you run into Uber Service Dom, or Uber Service Bottom, who's like, I'm just looking for someone to serve. We create opportunity through matchmaking. You're making the scene better by doing it. Connecting people with new play partners is making the scene better. Opening up a door for a volunteer who is struggling under far too many boxes, or the vendor who's trying to do loadout, you make the community better for everyone. We can change this one act at a time. But this is pretty hard when it sometimes takes forgiving. Now, in the book, When Sorry Isn't Enough by Dr. Jennifer Thomas, she points out there's 3 things that forgiveness is not. Forgiveness does not remove all of the consequences of wrongdoing. Even if I forgive you, that doesn't make what you did go away. Forgiveness does not immediately restore trust. In fact, sometimes it will never come back to where it was before. But it means that number 3, forgiveness doesn't remove the offense from our memory, but it does mean that we get to choose to work with them and not hold the offense against them as we move forward. We get to move forward. The last piece is, I think, what's being really hard for our community right now. Because people go, well, I'm working on forgiving them, but I'll never forget. Okay, that's great. But know what you still do? Is 10 years later, people are telling the story of, well, I don't trust so-and-so because he walked into my backswing. And I'm like, that was 2005!
Yes.
Right? Oh yeah. I'm still that kid in some places in the Seattle area. Yeah. How many of us are still holding on to the fact that somebody once posted a fat-phobic comment on a picture on FetLife before they even heard about body acceptance and awareness? Or maybe they were working through their own traumas around body love. But now it's 4 years later, And they've even turned over a new leaf, and they've talked about, body awareness, or they've done all of this work, but we keep saying, that's the fat-phobic asshole. 4 years later. No. And the thing is, all of these examples are not going to happen to everyone. But the thing I want people to think about is, how can we move forward with grace? And so my proposal, we teach. And I'm not talking about teaching in front of a class of however many. I'm talking about sitting down and having a conversation. I'm talking about teaching through example. And if no one else is willing to open up the doors, you start doing it too, because humans are primates and we copy each other. Lead by example. Write that post or poem or whatever it might be on that life. Write it from a place of love and a place of courage. Because sometimes it's going to be scary to do. To have the capacity to go up to that person who walked into somebody's backswing, because I, as the other viewer, might even have a story. A lot of us have stories about what happened to those people and try to take sides when nobody asked you to. Let's start having the courage to not worry about those things unless it's actually our business. And it takes strength of character to do so. And it's a muscle. It's not going to be easy at first. We have to build up our muscle. And so the easiest thing you can do today is, I'm going to ask you to turn to someone next to you that you don't know really well, and if you know everyone at the table, turn behind you. If you know them, just wave randomly. No. And say hello. Can I have you guys do that right now? Just say hello. Okay, seriously, the smiles that just erupted, saying hello to someone new can be really scary, but you just did it. You just did it. That's step one. This is our kinky congregation. Right? This is our kinky congregation. And so therefore, going up and saying hello to someone else this weekend. Open up the door. Ask them about their experiences, and while you're doing so, shut up and listen. Because we can do it today. And I know as a fact that this event has the opportunity to be even sexier, even with greater education, with presenters listening to the person who is giving information back to them, and the person who's been talking for the last 15 minutes in a class going, oh, I can step back and let someone else step forward. We can make these changes today. We can take that moment when we see somebody in a wheelchair and say, can I get anything for you? Or simply not assume that they are debilitated just because they have a different body experience. We can make those changes today. We can give a smile. Because a smile doesn't cost anything. Unless, of course, you're uber introvert, in which case I completely respect that. And you do, keep your eyes down. I respect that. I respect that. So that's my challenge for you all. Start small. Make change. And from there we can work on up to other things. We can work on up to having our venues like this one all be accessible to different bodies. We can work on having our venues all be available for people of different socioeconomic realities. We can work on challenging race issues in this community. We can work on our inherent homophobia embedded by our culture. We can work on the traumas that we've lived in the world at large. Because by saying hello to people you would have never talked to otherwise, that you would never have met somebody from that walk of life, we are making not just the scene, but I would argue the whole world. So thank you very much.